If you're a freelance designer, you either have been or will be at some point in your career asked to hand over the source files for the work you just created for your client. Generally speaking, this means a full file collection of any PSD files, vectors, images, sometimes maybe even fonts that are inside that vector or that file, and they're asking you to hand over that project. If you didn't know this already, the client wants this project and this file so that they can use it without your permission and just keep using it, repeating it over and over with a cheaper designer or with an intern and not have to pay you a cent. If you're a freelancer, unless you had a contract that stated otherwise, you are considered a work for hire. This is at least from the laws in the United States. Due to that, if you're creating work for a client, you don't actually own the rights to that work as soon as the client pays you for the work you just produced. However, that doesn't actually cover the cost of the working files or the source files. So unless you have a contract that specifically says you have to hand over the source files, you aren't legally obliged to do so. If you're in the middle of a project and the client asks you to hand over some files, such as some screenshots or some high-res images of the project you're currently working on, I would recommend handing over the image with a watermark that you currently have, or just with your name written on top of it so they can't actually use it without your permission. Also, so they can't run away with the project without having you paid a dime. Many clients think that just because they're paying you, they're actually entitled to the source files and any actual work that you produce, including digital files. However, this is a common but actually mistaken belief. Clients don't actually own anything as soon as you do work for them. They don't actually own the projects that you do just because they pay you. What they do own, however, is the end goal of the project. So the end images, the end assets, but they don't actually own the source file itself. It depends on what scope of rights you and the client agreed upon when the client actually hired you. Or actually, if you didn't agree on anything, it depends on what the law is in the state that you're in or in the country that you're actually in. And obviously that can be a lot more complicated, and I'm not going to get into it for this video. But as a common theme, as a freelancer, you own the rights to your personal work. First, it's important to know that under US copyright law, when you work as an independent contractor or as a freelancer, you're actually an author of the work that you create. That means even if a client is paying you to do that work. So as the umbrella copyright owner, you own the rights to all of the work you produce. You have all the rights to your work. That means the right to distribute copies of the work, to publicly display your work, and to make adaptations of the work that you just created. In order to give your copyright or a buyout to your client, this has to be exclusively and explicitly written in the contract. Furthermore, within that, you can decide what usage rights to actually give to your client. As a copyright owner, you can actually license your work to clients and have them exploit that under the contract. What that means is that they can use your work, but always within using it under your name or as an agreement for the license fee. As a part of that agreement, you can actually decide how the client gets to use your work, whether that's what type of media they use it on, or what ways they decide to distribute it with, or even what time frame they can actually use it in. You can also even agree to license your work out to other clients, making that cheaper for the current client that you're licensing it out to. You also get to decide if the client can distort any image, change colors, change fonts, change the text even, or even use your work as a basis to make new work. Best of all, you even get to decide what to charge for this license. If you want to have the best and the smoothest client conversation about this, it's best to do it in the beginning when you're still negotiating the contract. I actually just released a video about design contracts, and if you actually need one, so if you'd like to watch that, then watch it up here or up here. And make sure to give that a like and a comment if you have any questions. When you're talking to a client in the beginning of the contract, it's important to stipulate what kind of usage rights the client wants to have. This is extremely important because this decides how much you should actually charge the client. Your fees shouldn't only reflect who the client is or the hours that you put into the work, but also the usage rights that the client actually gets from the project when it's over. Your fees should be guided by industry standards, who you are as a designer, your expertise, and your experience. Also, even it could be guided by your morals. Some designers decide to charge nonprofits a lot less money just because of the cause. Your arrangement with the client determines usage rights, even if it's not clearly spelled out. Ideally, your project proposal or your designer contract clearly define the purpose or intended uses for your work. Also, extremely important, guys, it has to explain what the deliverables will be when the contract is over and what usage rights you're transferring over to the client when you decide to end it. The specific deliverables that the client receives should also be defined, and it should also be explained if you're handing over the digital files as is most commonly used, or also the working files and the source files. But as you may have begun to imagine, the topic is never clear and it's never a one-worded answer. Frequently, this isn't even mentioned in your contract in the first place, so it's extremely hard to know who's right in the matter. Also, most of the time, clients don't even understand the concept of a limited license. They often presume that they're getting a buyout of all the rights to the work when they finally pay you. However, this is obviously not true, and it definitely depends on the contract and who you are working with at the time. If you need a really good service to make contracts and design proposals and everything that a freelancer needs, then I definitely recommend using Bonsai. I've covered them in a lot of my videos, and I recently just launched a few series on Bonsai. If you want to watch the series, then click the link that's probably on top of my face right now. If you gained any value from this video, and if I helped you at all in your current situation, then please leave a like, subscribe, and even consider commenting or leaving a question down below. Thank you so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the next video.